Dear humans of UChicago, I, a noble gargoyle, am sad. Hey guys, it's Chloe again with another video, and today we're going to be talking about my UChicago essays. I know that some people in the comments have been asking to see them, or maybe just one comment. I've been thinking about doing this video. So today in specific, we're going to talk about my why UChicago essay. I know there's like the optional essay and then there's also the personal statement, but this one felt the most like connected to UChicago. I'm gonna be talking about my brainstorm process, how I like went with this idea, and then ultimately I'll be reading like quite a lot of it. I personally will not be reading like the entire thing like front to back. And the reason is because first of all, it's kind of long. Second of all, there's a lot of detail in this that I think is much better for me to like explain part by part. So I'm gonna like talk about it and then draw some examples from my essay and then like talk about it more. My essay, as you've heard previously, is a letter to UChicago, and my approach to this whole thing is based off of this video that I found on the UChicago admissions website. Now this is actually like 100% true story. I remember when I was like in 9th grade and we were doing Notre Dame in music class as well, like the French musical. I don't speak French, but love the musical. I watched the musical in French. And I was looking at like Notre Dame and like gargoyles and things like that. So I searched up like gargoyle on like YouTube videos and I just kept scrolling and scrolling and I saw like sad gargoyle diary. Now I was not aware that like sad blank diary was like a trend on YouTube at the time. Being on YouTube was already a novelty for me. Being in Shanghai, YouTube was like, ooh, you need VPN and stuff like that. Anyhow, I went out there, found a gargoyle video, and it was posted by UChicago admissions. And in 9th grade freshman me was like, so went on it, clicked on it. It was an extremely entertaining video. I will link the video in my description down below. It was basically, I think, like, I can't tell if they were like admissions officers or just students like doing this voiceover over like different gargoyles on campus, doing things like, I see that giant metal bird plane, or it's like, oh, I'm going to be swallowed by the green death vines. Anyhow, it was very entertaining and I immediately fell in love with that kind of like quirky, weird, like why are you voiceovering gargoyles in your school? Anyhow, very entertaining to me. So my entire essay is kind of themed around this idea. It's like a sad gargoyle diary 2.0. First thing about the structure, I chose a letter even though I knew it was quite risky because I felt that it was the easiest way for me to embody a gargoyle but also show that like I know a lot about the school. So a few things that I gathered from reading like a shit ton of why essays, which I'm sure everyone did, is that one, you really have to have, I find that I love doing this. Okay. One, you have to show that you really like the school. Obviously, everyone tells you that. But I think the easiest way to do that is to include a lot of detail. And so anything on the official website is basically off limits because anyone can just search that up. So I pulled my information from like pictures of UChicago, actual maps of the place. If you visited the place, then maybe something like a small detail about the place that makes it really special. So I pulled my research off of Facebook memes. I didn't write about any of them, but I kind of got the feel from that, you know? So like Facebook meme groups, niche, I think that's it. Yeah. There should be one more like meme page, but basically meme pages are a good source of material to get a good feel. And then I talked to a lot of like admissions counselors in my school and also from like UChicago. If I had like the chance to meet them, sometimes they go around touring. They stopped at my school a couple of times. I would ask them like, what's your favorite part of UChicago and things like that. And also third of all would be like the alumni in your school. If you're lucky enough to have any alumni. In my school, we had one guy go to UChicago like 4 years ago, and then we had someone who got in the year before me but didn't go. So that's not a lot of resources. So I like kind of asked them for their essays. Some replied, some didn't, and then kind of referenced them. Yeah, okay, so that's just for why essays in general. But then more specific to my essay, I wrote the entire essay in the perspective of a gargoyle, and basically the gargoyle is sad because it's not a student at UChicago. Yeah, so it's writing about how like every day I'm seeing these students walk past and I'm feeling like sad and like feeling all this like tension and this like brain and like intelligence oozing up from the air. It sounds cheesy, but that's literally what I wrote. And then in there, I sneaked in a lot of detail that I think was quite important. Like, this is like a paragraph, like the third or fourth paragraph from my essay. Quote, "These studious humans are akin to medieval infantry, tireless, leaving no field untouched, embracing potential clamor, sculpting their ever-changing perspectives and debates. What glory lies within Albert Pick Hall," the hall in UChicago where political science is taught, "under the instruction of Professor J. Brown," a very notable professor that I personally admire a lot. "I yearn to sharpen my mind and talents," this is in parentheses, "and talents, to discuss how to reconcile polarizing perspectives and achieve solidarity in organizational decision-making," which is a course in UChicago, "or how human," and gargoyle, "political beliefs can change completely with Professor Oliver." Right, so in that one, basically I talked to talents and like gargoyle political beliefs and things like that, but I also threw in course names, professor names, names of buildings and things like that, which the name of the building was surprisingly difficult to find. It's not just like the undergraduate building. There's actually a specific name for each building on most Gothic or like most older college campuses, and it's really useful if you throw that in, I felt. Kind of balanced the like creative element with like the specificity and research on the university element. One more example. "I long for the chance to sit at the round tables in the Chicago Center for Contemporary Theory, or on coffee counters in Ex Libris Cafe after late nights at the Regenstein, for I believe that the conveyance of my words in any discussion rivals my talent in spewing water." If you didn't know, gargoyles spew water. Ex Libris Cafe is a cafe that's actually embedded inside the Regenstein, which is one of the major libraries in UChicago. So here I was just like really casually throwing out me wanting to stay at this cafe, at this library. So to you, it's like a wow piece of information, but for the admissions officer reading this essay, it's going to be like something they're gonna know what Ex Libris Cafe is and Regenstein is. So when they read it very like naturally in a sentence, it just naturally gives them like, oh yeah, like she knows the place. That kind of feeling, that's what I was going for. And in the rest of my essay, I talked about the chance I got to go to Chicago, which was the Global Youth Ambassadors Leadership Summit, GYALS, in Chicago. And I basically talked about like how honorable it was for Chicago as a city to embrace me, a little gargoyle, and invited me to the camp and things like that. And then I talked about this amazing chance that the executive director of the GYALS program heard that my dream school was UChicago. He probably heard it because I told anyone who would listen. But it paid off because he actually connected me with his friend at UChicago, who turns out to be a Professor Allison Segler. And if you don't know who she is, I'll link her page down below as well. She's amazing. She's a 7th Circuit lawyer who teaches, and her firm is in the UChicago Law School. So I actually got to meet her on campus for like an hour to like talk to her and her undergraduate interns. So that really gave me a lot of insight into UChicago. And then I talked about the quirkiness, the fun of UChicago that it's very much known for. I tried to make humor a really big thing in my Y essay. I'm not a very funny person. I try to be funny by making like puns and things like that because they just come really naturally to me. Like when someone says something, I'll just be like, oh yeah, da 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 da, and it'll be like awkward laughter in the room or just complete silence in the room because it's like a weird pun. It's not funny, it's just like an offbeat, like a huh. That's the kind of feeling I tried to like incorporate in my essay as well as a lot of detail. So I felt like that really packed a punch. So let me give you a couple of examples. I'm gonna read you guys the beginning again because in the middle I put a lot more like, as I mentioned previously, professor names, program names and things like that. But in the beginning and in the end, I packed it full of like fun stuff. Yeah, so an example. After I said, "I, a noble gargoyle, am sad the time has come for me to chronicle my heartache," I put, "Unlike the fearsome beasts that alight Cobb Gate, I do not ensconce stony-faced under sunlight, but perch on an unremembered pediment in the University of Chicago. Associate me not with the unaspiring grotesques or chimeras, hunky-punks, the frogs with bat wings, or white men with scrips and harps. I have a dream, simultaneously a sorrow. I wish to be a student on this campus." So Cobb Gate is that really famous gate that like all the admitted students go through before they go to UChicago, and there are like 5, I think, gargoyles that sit on it. I think they famously represent the admissions officers. So I'd be like English. So I was like, unlike the fearsome beasts that alight on Cobb Gate, I do not ensconce under the sunlight, but rather I like hide away in some corner of UChicago, so that absolves the one, I'm not one of the like admissions officer related gargoyles. I'm not that like conceited. And two, you don't know who I am because I like lurk in the shadows. So that solves the like, where's this gargoyle? Is she like going after like a specific one in the school? Yeah, no. And then when I mentioned like grotesques, chimeras, hunky punks, frogs with bat wings, white men with scripts and harps. These are all actual statues in UChicago. Later on, I put something like, this is like towards the end. Let me tell you this, humans. My stony skin gleamed when I found that the rhythm of your school matched the rhythmic beating of my wings. Column. Slightly off. The same wings quiver as I ache to hold pen and paper to submit uproarious scavenger proposals or offer my insights on the comparability of latke and hamantash. Afternoons spent poring over the Leviathan and Mansueto, enjoying dollar shakes from the Reynolds, practicing Liszt on the grand piano in Blackstone Residential, grabbing insomnia cookies to sneak into the lectures at the Institute of Politics. Curse the barriers that stand between us. Yeah, so I just listed like a bunch of things I really want to do, which is genuinely true. They have amazing dollar shakes, and who else has an insomnia cookies and now boba tea built into the dorm room? Pretty fun. This video is, again, kind of long, I apologize, but one more thing I really wanted to touch on about my essay was the ending. Dear humans, I implore, take me to further skies, enliven my stony wings, let my screech be heard. I know you will embrace the rather odd juxtaposition of a Gothic gargoyle in an avant-garde glass dome library, just as you forbid letter discrimination to your name. Decidedly yours, Chloe Tan. First of her name, the unburnt from sun, queen of the spires, gargoyle of the great unknown, protector of the roof, breaker of stone, spewer of water, and prospective gargoyle. So, if you don't know that reference, I literally took Daenerys Targaryen, Game of Thrones, I took all her titles, and then I put it here, and I basically changed each one of them to fit like my gargoyle persona. So there was gargoyle of the great unknown, queen of the spires, like, you know, like the spires in the Gothic, yeah. The unburnt from sun, and then protector of roof, breaker of stone, spewer of water, and then finally prospective gargoyle. Yeah, and then I also mentioned letter discrimination because you know how like UChicago, the Gothic font, it's called Fête Francœur, I think. The font, there is no like the C isn't capitalized, the U isn't capitalized, they're all not capitalized. I found that really cool, so I just said, just as you forbid letter discrimination to your name. Yeah. That's all I have today for you for my why essay for UChicago. I hope you guys enjoyed it, or at least I hope it was useful for you guys. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any further questions or if you guys want to see like more excerpts from my essays. I'll be really happy to like send you like parts of it and things like that. I'm not very comfortable with posting my entire essay on YouTube, but if you guys want to hear like more parts of it, I'll be more than willing to make like a part 2 where I read more parts from it. So yeah. Still in need of an outro.